What I'm about to tell you happens every single morning in bedrooms across America. And when you realize what mistake number one actually is, the one that cardiologists now believe is connected to nearly 40% of all morning heart attacks, you're going to look at your entire morning routine differently. I'm Dr. Sandra Whitmore, and I need you to listen carefully to what I'm about to say. That thing you did this morning, within the first 10 minutes of waking up, there's a significant chance it put dangerous strain on your cardiovascular system. Not a little strain, the kind of strain that can trigger a massive heart attack. And here's what terrifies me as a cardiologist who's treated thousands of cardiac patients over 23 years. Right now, millions of people are waking up and making the exact same mistake. They have no idea they're putting themselves at risk. They think they're just starting their day normally. But their heart, their blood vessels, their entire cardiovascular system is experiencing a biological storm that peaks between 6 a.m. and noon. This isn't speculation. This is documented medical fact. Heart attacks don't happen randomly throughout the day. They cluster dramatically in the morning hours. Research shows that your risk of suffering a heart attack can be up to 40% higher during the morning. And when I tell you why, when I explain what's actually happening inside your body the moment you wake up, you'll understand why certain morning habits are so catastrophically dangerous. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what those habits are. You'll understand the science behind why mornings are so dangerous for your heart. And most importantly, you'll know exactly what to do differently starting tomorrow morning. But I need to tell you about mistake number 5 first, because this one is going to surprise almost everyone watching. Stay with me, because what happens in the next 15 minutes could literally save your life. Let me tell you about Robert, because his story is going to reveal something about mornings that almost no one understands. Robert was 62, a healthy guy, or so he thought. He exercised regularly, watched his diet, took his blood pressure medication. Every morning at 5:30 a.m., his alarm would go off. And every morning, Robert would do the same thing. He'd sit up immediately, swing his legs out of bed, stand up, and head straight to the bathroom. Normal morning routine, right? Nothing unusual. Except on a Tuesday morning in March, Robert stood up from bed, took 3 steps, and collapsed. Massive heart attack. His wife called 911. The paramedics got there within 8 minutes. They saved his life, but barely. When Robert came to see me 3 weeks later, still recovering, still shaken, he asked me the question I hear constantly. Dr. Whitmore, why? Why did this happen? I was just getting out of bed. And that's when I had to explain something to Robert that changed how he understood his entire cardiovascular system. Mistake number 5 is standing up too quickly after waking. Let me explain why this is so dangerous and why it connects to everything else we're going to discuss. When you're lying down asleep, your blood pressure is at its lowest point. Your heart rate is slow. Your blood vessels are relaxed. Your entire cardiovascular system is in rest mode. Then your alarm goes off. Suddenly, within seconds, you're sitting up, standing up, walking. And here's what happens inside your body. Your blood pressure has to increase rapidly to pump blood upward against gravity to your brain. Your heart rate has to accelerate quickly. Your sympathetic nervous system, your body's stress response system, has to activate immediately. This rapid transition from deep rest to sudden activity creates what cardiologists call a cardiovascular surge. For most people, most days, the body handles this surge without a problem. But if you have underlying heart disease, if your arteries have plaque buildup, if your blood pressure is already elevated, this surge can be the trigger, the straw that breaks the camel's back. A piece of plaque can rupture. A blood clot can form. A coronary artery can spasm. Heart attack. Robert's cardiologist at the emergency room had told him he was lucky to be alive, but no one had explained to him why it happened that specific morning. The truth is, it wasn't just about standing up too quickly. That was part of it. But there was something else happening, something that happens to everyone every single morning, something that makes mornings the most dangerous time of day for your heart. And that brings us to the biological reality that explains everything. Let me explain what's actually happening in your body during those morning hours, because once you understand this, all the mistakes we're going to discuss will make perfect sense. Your body operates on something called a circadian rhythm. This is your internal biological clock that regulates virtually every system in your body over a 24-hour cycle. And in the morning, roughly between 6 a.m. and noon, your body undergoes dramatic changes. First, your cortisol levels spike. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone, but it's actually essential for waking you up and preparing your body for activity. The problem is, cortisol also increases blood pressure and makes blood more likely to clot. Second, your sympathetic nervous system activates. This is your fight-or-flight system. Heart rate increases. Blood vessels constrict. Blood pressure rises. Third, your blood becomes thicker. You've been sleeping for 6, 7, 8 hours without drinking any water. You're mildly dehydrated. Your blood is more viscous, more likely to form clots. Fourth, platelet activity increases. Platelets are the blood cells responsible for clotting. In the morning, they become stickier, more likely to clump together. And fifth, your body's natural clot-dissolving system, something called fibrinolytic activity, decreases in the morning. So you're more likely to form clots and less able to dissolve them. Now, do you see the picture I'm painting? Every single morning, your body creates the perfect conditions for a heart attack. Higher blood pressure, faster heart rate, thicker blood, increased clotting, decreased clot-dissolving capacity. This happens to everyone. It's normal physiology. But for someone with underlying heart disease, for someone with cholesterol plaque in their coronary arteries, these morning changes can be catastrophic. And certain morning habits, mistakes that millions of people make every single day, make this situation far worse. Mistake number 4 is going to shock you because I know at least half the people watching this video do this every single morning. Let me tell you about Catherine because her story illustrates this perfectly. Catherine was 58, a busy executive. She'd wake up every morning at 6 a.m. to the sound of her alarm. And within minutes, she'd be checking her phone, emails, news alerts, work messages, stock market updates. Her heart rate would already be elevated, her stress response already activated. Then she'd rush to get ready. Quick shower, get dressed fast, grab coffee, skip breakfast, rush out the door by 6:45 to beat traffic. Every morning, the same high-stress routine. Until one morning, Catherine felt tightness in her chest while she was in the shower. She ignored it, thought it was just stress. The tightness became pain, radiating down her left arm. She sat down on the bathroom floor, called 911, heart attack. When I saw Catherine in my office 6 weeks later, I asked her to walk me through her typical morning. And as she described it, rushing, stressing, checking her phone, skipping breakfast, I explained to her that she was doing almost everything wrong. Mistake number 4 is creating a high-stress morning transition, the rapid shift from sleep to high-intensity stress. Let me explain the mechanism, because this is critical. Remember what I told you about the morning cardiovascular surge? The natural increase in blood pressure, heart rate, cortisol, sympathetic nervous system activity? Well, when you add psychological stress on top of that, when you're rushing, worrying, reading stressful news, checking work emails, you're dramatically amplifying that surge. Your stress response goes into overdrive. Adrenaline floods your system. Your heart is pounding. Your blood pressure spikes even higher. And if you have vulnerable plaque in your coronary arteries, this combined physiological and psychological stress can rupture that plaque. Once plaque ruptures, your blood, which is already in a hypercoagulable state because of the normal morning changes, forms a clot at the rupture site. That clot blocks blood flow. Heart attack. This is why cardiologists now emphasize the importance of a gradual, calm morning transition. You need to give your cardiovascular system time to adjust. Dr. Rachel Bond, a cardiologist who studied this extensively, describes it as, quote, "The rapid transition from sleep to high-stress activity creates a perfect storm for a cardiovascular episode." Perfect storm. That's exactly what it is. But here's what makes mistake number 3 even more dangerous. At least with stress, most people recognize it's probably not good for them. Mistake number 3 is something people actually think is healthy. Let me tell you about James, and this story is going to surprise you. James was 67, recently retired, in good health. He'd read articles about the importance of hydration, so every night before bed, he'd drink a large glass of water. Good habit, right? And every morning he'd wake up, and the first thing he'd do was exercise. He'd read that morning exercise was beneficial for heart health. He wanted to be proactive. So right after waking up, maybe 5 minutes after getting out of bed, James would go for a brisk walk around his neighborhood. 30 minutes, good pace, getting his heart rate up. He did this every single day for 3 years. Until one morning in October, about 12 minutes into his walk, James felt a crushing pain in his chest. He collapsed on the sidewalk. A neighbor saw him, called 911. The paramedics got there quickly. They saved his life. When James met with me, he was confused, frustrated. He'd been doing everything right, exercising, staying hydrated, watching his diet. How could this happen? And I had to explain to James that he'd made a critical error. Mistake number 3 is engaging in intense physical activity immediately after waking up. Now, I need to be very clear about this because I don't want anyone to think I'm saying exercise is bad. Exercise is essential. Morning exercise can absolutely be beneficial, but timing matters, intensity matters, and gradual transition matters. Here's what James didn't know. When you exercise, especially intense cardiovascular exercise, your body undergoes significant changes. Heart rate increases dramatically, blood pressure rises, blood flow increases, sympathetic nervous system activates strongly. Again, normally, the body handles this perfectly well. But in the morning, when your cardiovascular system is already in that vulnerable state I described, when your blood pressure is already rising, your blood is already thicker, your clotting tendency is already increased, adding intense exercise on top of that can be the trigger. Research has shown that the risk of heart attack during or immediately after intense physical exertion is significantly higher in the morning compared to later in the day. The solution isn't to avoid morning exercise. The solution is to transition gradually. Wake up, sit on the edge of your bed for a minute, let your body adjust, stand up slowly, drink water. Give yourself at least 15 to 20 minutes of gentle activity before engaging in moderate or intense exercise. Light stretching, slow walking, gradual warm-up. Let your cardiovascular system wake up properly before you demand intense performance from it. But mistake number 2 is something that might be even more common than rushing into exercise. And this one connects directly to that biological reality I explained earlier about dehydration. Let me tell you about Patricia, because her story illustrates the danger of ignoring something so simple. Patricia was 71, living independently, active, healthy for her age. Every morning she'd wake up around 7 a.m. She'd get out of bed slowly. Good. She'd sit for a moment. Good. Then she'd go to the kitchen and make her breakfast. Toast, eggs, and coffee. Strong black coffee. She loved her morning coffee. It was her ritual. She wouldn't drink water until later in the day, usually not until after lunch. She just preferred coffee in the morning. This went on for years. Then one morning, Patricia woke up with a slight headache. She got up, made her coffee, drank 2 cups. An hour later, she felt chest discomfort, tightness. She thought maybe it was indigestion. The discomfort got worse. She called her daughter. Her daughter rushed over, took one look at her, and drove her straight to the emergency room. Heart attack. When I reviewed Patricia's case, one of the risk factors that stood out immediately was chronic morning dehydration, made worse by coffee consumption. Mistake number 2 is not hydrating properly first thing in the morning. Here's why this matters so much. Remember, I told you that overnight, while you're sleeping, you become mildly dehydrated. You're not drinking any fluids for 6, 7, 8 hours. By morning, your blood is thicker, more viscous. This increases the tendency for blood clots to form. Now, what's the first thing millions of people do? They drink coffee or tea, caffeinated beverages. And caffeine is a diuretic, meaning it makes you urinate more, which actually worsens dehydration. Plus, caffeine stimulates your sympathetic nervous system, increasing heart rate and blood pressure. So you're taking a cardiovascular system that's already in a vulnerable morning state, making the blood even thicker by not rehydrating, and then adding a stimulant that increases cardiac workload. This combination, for someone with underlying heart disease, can be dangerous. The solution is simple but critical. The first thing you consume in the morning should be water, room temperature water, not ice cold. 8 to 16 ounces. Rehydrate your system, thin your blood, give your cardiovascular system what it needs. You can have your coffee, but have water first. This one simple change can make a significant difference. And now we've arrived at mistake number 1. The most common, most dangerous morning habit that cardiologists now believe is connected to a massive percentage of morning heart attacks. The mistake that almost everyone makes because it seems completely harmless. Are you ready? Let me tell you about Donald first, because Donald's story is going to explain everything. Donald was 69 years old, a retired accountant. He had high blood pressure, well controlled with medication. He had high cholesterol, also managed with medication. He saw his doctor regularly. He was doing everything right, or so everyone thought. Every morning, Donald's routine was the same. His alarm would go off at 6:30 a.m., and immediately, within seconds of that alarm sounding, Donald would sit up in bed, turn off the alarm, stand up, and head straight to the bathroom. Now here's the critical part. And this is what no one had ever explained to Donald. He needed to have a bowel movement every single morning, like clockwork. And because he didn't want to waste time, because he had things to do, he would strain. Push hard, get it done quickly. He thought nothing of it. He'd been doing this his entire adult life. Until one morning in June. Donald woke up. Alarm went off. He got up, went to the bathroom, started straining, and suddenly he felt the worst pain of his life. Crushing chest pain, radiating to his jaw. He couldn't breathe. He managed to call out to his wife. She found him collapsed on the bathroom floor. She called 911. Massive heart attack. The emergency room doctors saved his life, but Donald had suffered significant heart damage. When he came to see me months later, still recovering, I explained to him what had happened, and I explained mistake number 1. Mistake number 1 is straining during a bowel movement in the morning. Let me explain why this is so catastrophically dangerous. When you strain, when you bear down during a bowel movement, you're performing something called a Valsalva maneuver. You're holding your breath. You're increasing pressure in your chest and abdomen. And this creates dramatic effects on your cardiovascular system. First, the increased pressure temporarily reduces blood flow back to your heart. Your heart rate initially slows. Then, when you release the strain, when you exhale, there's a sudden surge. Blood rushes back to the heart. Heart rate spikes. Blood pressure spikes. For someone with normal, healthy arteries, this usually isn't a problem. But for someone with coronary artery disease, with cholesterol plaque buildup, this sudden surge in pressure can rupture that plaque. And remember what I told you about morning. Your blood is already thicker. Your clotting tendency is already increased. Your blood pressure is already elevated. Now add the mechanical stress of straining, the Valsalva maneuver, the sudden pressure changes. It's a perfect storm. Research has shown, and this is documented in multiple studies, that a significant percentage of heart attacks in older adults, particularly those occurring in the morning hours, happen during or immediately after straining during a bowel movement. This isn't talked about enough. It's not something people like to discuss, but it's absolutely critical. Now, why does this happen in the morning specifically? 2 reasons. First, because of all those morning cardiovascular changes I've explained, and second, because bowel movements often happen in the morning due to something called the gastrocolic reflex. When you wake up, when you start moving around, your digestive system activates. The urge to have a bowel movement is strongest in the morning for most people. So you have the biological vulnerability of the morning cardiovascular state, combined with the mechanical stress of straining happening at the exact same time. Disaster waiting to happen. The solution? First, if you're experiencing chronic constipation, if you're straining regularly, you need to address this with your doctor. Increase fiber in your diet. Drink more water throughout the day, not just in the morning. Consider a stool softener if necessary. And second, never strain forcefully. If you're having difficulty, stop. Stand up, walk around. Try again later. Give your body time. And most importantly, if you do need to have a bowel movement in the morning, make sure you've been awake for at least 15 to 20 minutes. Give your cardiovascular system time to stabilize before you add that mechanical stress. Donald wished someone had told him this decades ago. It might have prevented his heart attack. It might have saved him from months of recovery, and it might prevent the same thing from happening to you. Now let me pull all of this together, because understanding individual mistakes is important, but understanding how they interact, how they compound each other, that's critical. Imagine this scenario. You wake up to a loud alarm, immediate stress response activated. You sit up quickly and stand up immediately. Cardiovascular surge. You rush to the bathroom and strain during a bowel movement. Valsalva maneuver, pressure spikes. Then you check your phone, see stressful emails or news. Psychological stress added. You skip water and go straight for coffee. Dehydration worsened, stimulant added. Then you rush into intense exercise without warm-up. Additional cardiac demand. Every single one of these mistakes is amplifying the natural morning cardiovascular vulnerability. You're stacking risk factor on top of risk factor. And if you have underlying coronary artery disease, if you have vulnerable plaque in your arteries, you're creating the conditions for that plaque to rupture, for a clot to form, for a heart attack to happen. This is why mornings are so dangerous. This is why heart attacks peak between 6 a.m. and noon. It's not random. It's predictable biology combined with dangerous habits. So what's the solution? What should you do differently starting tomorrow morning? Let me give you the complete protocol, the exact steps that can protect your cardiovascular system during those vulnerable morning hours. First, wake up gradually. If possible, use an alarm that increases volume slowly, or one that uses light instead of sound. Avoid jarring, sudden awakening. Second, when your alarm goes off, don't sit up immediately. Lie there for 30 seconds to a minute. Take a few deep breaths. Let your brain wake up. Let your cardiovascular system start transitioning. Third, sit up slowly. Sit on the edge of your bed for another 30 seconds to a minute. Let your blood pressure adjust to the sitting position. Fourth, stand up slowly. Don't rush. Give your body time to adjust to standing. Fifth, the first thing you consume should be water, 8 to 16 ounces. Room temperature. Rehydrate your system immediately. Sixth, if you need to use the bathroom, take your time. Never strain forcefully. If you're experiencing constipation, address it with your doctor. Consider dietary changes, increased fiber, adequate hydration throughout the day, stool softeners if necessary. Seventh, avoid checking your phone, email, or news for at least the first 15 to 20 minutes after waking. Give yourself a stress-free transition period. Let your cortisol and sympathetic nervous system activate naturally without adding psychological stress on top. Eighth, if you exercise in the morning, and morning exercise can absolutely be beneficial, make sure you've been awake for at least 20 to 30 minutes before starting. Begin with gentle activity. Stretching, slow walking, gradual warm-up. Let your cardiovascular system wake up before demanding intense performance. And ninth, eat breakfast. Don't skip it. Choose something with protein, fiber, healthy fats. Stabilize your blood sugar. Give your body the fuel it needs. Follow this protocol, and you dramatically reduce your risk of experiencing a morning heart attack. You're working with your body's natural rhythms instead of fighting against them. You're protecting yourself during those vulnerable hours between 6 a.m. and noon when your cardiovascular system is most at risk. Now, I need to emphasize something important. If you have any of the following risk factors, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, family history of heart disease, if you're a current or former smoker, if you're overweight or inactive, these morning precautions are even more critical for you. You're already at elevated risk. Don't compound that risk with dangerous morning habits. And if you ever experience chest pain, chest pressure, pain radiating to your arm or jaw, sudden shortness of breath, unexplained nausea or sweating, especially in the morning hours, do not ignore it. Do not wait. Call 911 immediately. Time is muscle when it comes to heart attacks. The faster you get treatment, the more heart muscle we can save. Before I finish, let me tell you what happened to the people I mentioned. Robert, who stood up too quickly, he recovered. He now practices gradual morning transitions. He's been heart attack-free for 4 years. Catherine, who had the high-stress mornings, she changed her entire routine. She wakes up 30 minutes earlier now. She has a calm, gradual transition. She's thriving. James, who exercised too intensely too soon, he still exercises every morning. But now he waits 30 minutes after waking, does a proper warm-up. He's in better shape now than before his heart attack. Patricia, who didn't hydrate, she drinks 2 glasses of water every morning now before anything else. Her cardiologist says her blood work has improved significantly. And Donald, who strained in the bathroom, he addressed his constipation, changed his diet, and he never strains anymore. He's recovered well. All of these people made changes, simple changes to their morning routine, and those changes saved their lives going forward. Now you have the information. You know the 5 dangerous morning mistakes. You know why mornings are the most vulnerable time for your heart. You know the science behind it. And you know exactly what to do differently. Use this information. Share this video with anyone you care about who might be making these mistakes. Your spouse, your parents, your friends. This information could save their life. Subscribe to this channel because my mission is to give you medical information that most people never learn. Information that can prevent disease, save lives, extend healthy years. And if what you learned today was valuable, if you're going to change your morning routine because of what I've explained, leave a comment below. Tell me which mistake you were making. Tell me what you're going to change. I read every comment. Your health, your heart deserves protection, especially during those vulnerable morning hours. Take care of yourself. Protect your heart. And I'll see you in the next video. Stop doing this in the morning. It's real cause of sudden heart attack, cardiologist says. What I'm about to tell you happens every single morning in bedrooms across America. And when you realize what mistake number 1 actually is, the one that cardiologists now believe is connected to nearly 40% of all morning heart attacks, you're going to look at your entire morning routine differently. I'm Dr. Sandra Whitmore, and I need you to listen carefully to what I'm about to say. That thing you did this morning, within the first 10 minutes of waking up, there's a significant chance it put dangerous strain on your cardiovascular system. Not a little strain, the kind of strain that can trigger a massive heart attack. And here's what terrifies me as a cardiologist who's treated thousands of cardiac patients over 23 years. Right now, millions of people are waking up and making the exact same mistake. They have no idea they're putting themselves at risk. They think they're just starting their day normally. But their heart, their blood vessels, their entire cardiovascular system is experiencing a biological storm that peaks between 6 a.m. and noon. This isn't speculation. This is documented medical fact. Heart attacks don't happen randomly throughout the day. They cluster dramatically in the morning hours. Research shows that your risk of suffering a heart attack can be up to 40% higher during the morning. And when I tell you why, when I explain what's actually happening inside your body the moment you wake up, you'll understand why certain morning habits are so catastrophically dangerous. By your health, your heart deserves protection, especially during those vulnerable morning hours. Take care of yourself, protect your heart, and I'll see you in the next video.